All right, the main thing we are going to look under respiration is the approach. How do we approach this chapter to effectively understand? Okay, number one, you must ask yourself, what's the main purpose, objective of the process of respiration? Okay, the main purpose of the process of respiration is to provide energy to body cells. Okay, that's the main reason. That's the main purpose, to provide energy to body cells. And let's be more precise, the energy is in the form of ATP. And this is the most immediate energy available to cells. All right, so this is the main purpose. All right, now to really effectively understand the importance of respiration, we must relate the requirement of this energy. How important is this energy to body cells? So how important, how vital, okay? To what extent do we need the energy, all right? So here we divide it into animal cells and we divide it into plant cells, all right? Okay. Now, basically, animal cells and plant cells. So in animal cells, the process is very important for the process of meiosis as well as mitosis. Why? Because these are the energy requiring processes, and meiosis involves in reproduction, mitosis involves in growth. The same is true in plants as well. All right? The same is true in plants as well. In plants, the mitosis process occurs in meristematic cells. Meristematic cells, okay, remember the shoot, the root part, okay, meristematic cells. It involves in the, what you call lateral cambium, vascular cambium, all that, okay? That's where mitosis, the growth occurs there, secondary growth, primary growth, and so on. All these are energy requiring process. Now, is it only limited to meiosis and mitosis? No. Animals have what we call the musculoskeletal system. And for locomotion, animals need what we call the contraction of muscles. Contractions of muscle require abundance of energy. So energy is required for muscular contraction. All right? Muscular contractions. Sometimes just the word muscular contraction does not give you the depthness in the importance of the requirement of the muscular contraction. But if I were to tell you, look, for the pumping of the heart, okay, the pumping action of the heart is purely a muscular organ. You need that muscular contraction. And now you can see the importance, because if you do not have muscular contraction, no energy is available, your heart will stop to function. All right. Then we look at the, what you call the respiratory system. Okay, our intercostal muscles and the diaphragm. They need the contractions. The contractions are necessary to bring about changes in the what you call the pressure, the air pressure in the thoracic cage, in the rib cage, in the thoracic cavity, which then causes the inhalation and the exhalation process. So again, you can see the importance of this muscular contraction. All right, in terms of animals, those which hunt down the prey, all right, in order to secure food and all that, muscular contraction is very important for locomotion. So you can see the importance of energy here. All right. Now, if you want to go further into reproduction, okay, in animal cells, such as in humans, sperms have to swim and meet the ovum, all right, and then cause what we call fertilization. All right, the swimming action requires what you call energy in the form of ATP. So all in all, what I've just pointed out to you is, all right, the importance of energy to body cells, all right, whether animal cells or plant cells. Like in the case of plant cells, you can even talk about companion cells. Companion cells carry out what we call active transport to actively load the sucrose into the phloem cell. Okay, into phloem, into the phloem tissue in order for translocation to occur. So without that, active transport will not take place. And active transport does not only limit or restrict at the companion cells. Throughout the plant body, throughout the animal body, active transport is vital in order to move any substances across plasma membrane against the concentration gradient. So we can go on, and all this is to point out the importance of energy requirement to body cells. So the point is, energy is one of the most important components, all right, that cell should have, and only one process can provide energy, and that is respiration. Okay, so that is established there. Now, what do the cells need in order to carry out respiration? So in terms of raw materials, okay, the cells require what we call glucose. So cells require glucose and they require oxygen. These are the two main, what we call reactants of the respiration process. So the glucose is oxidized by oxygen to harness the energy in the glucose, and that energy will be converted to ATP. And in the process, you will have carbon dioxide and water being produced as the products. Okay, and this energy, the energy produced, is harnessed into ATP. All right, so that is basically the what you call the overview of the respiration process in terms of reactants. So oxygen is completely oxidizes the glucose to give you carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Now here I use the word completely oxidized. So what in the glucose is not completely oxidized? So here it is aerobic respiration. Complete oxidation of glucose is known as aerobic respiration. But in case the cell do not receive enough oxygen, the glucose can follow another pathway, an alternative pathway, all right, to produce what we call energy, all right, but the amount of energy is very less, all right, and this pathway is further divided into two. So in plants, if you're talking about, let's go for animals. In animals, the glucose undergoes incomplete oxidation to lactic acid. Lactic acid, no carbon dioxide is produced, but you have a certain amount of energy being produced, which is a very small amount, but it is vital at that period of time for the cells to continue. So energy, this energy, although small, is important. But why is it a small amount of energy is produced? Because number one, glucose undergoes incomplete oxidation, which means a large amount of energy remains trapped inside the lactic acid, which is not able to be harnessed or tapped. That's why only a small amount of energy is produced. But in plants, a more complete, it is still incomplete oxidation, but more complete than animal. The oxidation goes on to produce what we call ethanol and carbon dioxide. So it is more, the incomplete oxidation is more complete in plants. This is a 2-carbon. This is a 2-carbon molecule. That's a 3-carbon molecule. So a 6-carbon molecule of glucose is broken down to a 2-carbon molecule of ethanol. Therefore, it's more complete compared to that. And that is why you get a release of carbon dioxide. That's why you don't have a release of carbon dioxide. Compare and study. And obviously, the energy released here is much higher. This is about 150 kilojoules if we talk about. Here is about 210 kilojoules per glucose molecule. We talk about that. So you can see. So you have your verification here. Verification in terms of why here lower energy, higher energy. Because the oxidation here is more complete compared to here. That is why you get a 2-carbon and a 3-carbon. Why there's carbon dioxide, no carbon dioxide? Because here this is a 3-carbon lactic acid. Here's a 2-carbon, so 1 carbon is released as carbon dioxide. And this pathway is what we call anaerobic respiration. This is an anaerobic pathway, and it's further called as fermentation. So here it's called lactate fermentation. Lactate fermentation. Here it is known as ethanolic or alcoholic. You can call it ethanolic, ethanol is formed, or you call it alcoholic fermentation. You also can call it as alcoholic fermentation or ethanolic fermentation. Okay, alcoholic fermentation. All right. Now, so that is that. Now, when does this respiration process take place? So if you talk about a cell, okay, this is the cell. So that's your nucleus. I'm taking an animal cell as an example. And that's your mitochondria. Okay, all exaggerated so that you can see. Okay, so the glucose enters. So glucose enters into the cytoplasm. All right. So here the glucose undergoes the first stage of respiration known as the glycolysis process. From there, it then moves into the mitochondria if there is enough oxygen available. So the products of the first stage will be taken into the mitochondria and the subsequent complete oxidation occurs with the release of ATP energy. But in the event there's not enough oxygen, then the process continues in the cytoplasm. All right? Okay? Continues in the cytoplasm, leading to incomplete oxidation of glucose. And hence, in an animal cell, accumulation of lactic acid takes place. But this one mainly occurs in muscular cells. Why muscular cells? Because the anaerobic pathway, as you can see, occurs where there is oxygen deficiency. That means there's not enough oxygen. Now, this only occurs in cells which carry out strenuous exercises. So in a or strenuous activity, really strenuous activity, then only the cell goes into a stage of insufficient oxygen supply to the mitochondria. All right. And you know, among all the cells in a human body or in an animal body, it's the muscles that undergo strenuous exercise. That's why this process of anaerobic respiration in an animal is restricted to the muscle cells. It is focused to the muscle cells because they are the one will most probably undergo what we call insufficiency of oxygen, and the cells that are that will undergo anaerobic respiration. In the case of plants, anaerobic respiration usually occurs in a certain condition, such as, for example, roots of plants that remain waterlogged for a prolonged period of time, not able to get oxygen. All right, they will undergo anaerobic respiration. Usually, the upper part of the plants, the leaves and stems, will not undergo anaerobic respiration. Or in the case where the roots are in a soil which is not well aerated, okay, compacted soil, not enough aeration. There's not enough air in between the soil particles. Then that roots will undergo anaerobic respiration. Okay, so they are and in limited conditions. So the summary is anaerobic respiration in plants usually undergone by roots which are submerged in water for a prolonged time, or roots which are submerged, which are in soil which are not well aerated. Whereas in animal cells, it's usually muscle cells which undergo strenuous exercises. Okay, all right. Now I need the board. So if there's anything you want to take down, you take down. But I said the notes is quite adequate, so you can brush through it.